My name's Eddi Taylor, I'm a partner at Azets, and today I've got the pleasure of being here at Clownfish HQ with the one and only Matt Turner.
Hello.
Founder and MD, CEO.
Yeah.
Today we just want to hear a little bit more about the Clownfish business, the story so far, and what makes this such a fantastic business. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Eddi. Great to be here in my own building.
So Matt, if you wouldn't mind just starting by telling us a little bit about Clownfish, maybe the story and where it all started 16 years ago.
Sure. So as Eddi introduced, my name is Matt, and 16 years ago, when I was 18 years old, I started this little business called Clownfish Events. And as you can probably imagine, I was 18, so I was living at Mum and Dad's house in Kingston upon Thames, down the road from here. And I don't think I had a driving license when we first incorporated the company. So Dad drove me around in his Toyota Previa. We were a family of 6, so we had a big car. And I remember paying about £200 from Homebase for a wooden shed. And that was the kind of storage of some of the technical equipment that I'd acquired growing up. So that was things like speakers and DJ equipment. And then the chance became to start a company when I left school. So that's where I was then. Clearly, you know, a decade and a half later, in 2025 we are now. I'm now 35 years old. And yeah, the company's grown quite a bit. There are over 20 of us in the full-time team. There's another kind of 15 or so kind of casual or part-time. There's the clients range from some of the biggest banks in the world to some of the biggest social media agencies in the world and companies. And we situate across 3 or 4 buildings, 2 of which we own.
And where did the name come from, Clownfish?
Clownfish came from, you know what, we had 5 or 6 investors right back in 2009. One of the early shareholders was a guy called Jeremy Smith, and he was a really close friend of mine. And he suggested the word clownfish, and we played with it for a while. At first I wasn't quite sure, and then I realized what it kind of meant, which was this kind of fresh energy, slightly new, slightly different, not stuffy, not corporate in inverted commas, probably very similar to how I wanted to play in business and who I was fundamentally as a person. I like this idea that fundamentally what we do as a business is we make people smile, we connect people, we bring them together. I wanted the name to make people kind of smile too, and just be just a little different. And actually most people, when they say it and when they hear the word Clownfish Events for the first time, it just gives them a little smile. Yeah. And that ultimately is what we're selling. I also think, I mean, no one forgets it. The conversation I have the most is, if I say to anyone new, I run Clownfish, most people in our industry now say, oh gosh, yeah, I've heard of you. Or I've seen a van somewhere, or it's quite recognizable, and that's what we wanted to achieve.
It's a great brand.
It's a good brand, yeah, thanks.
And the whole thing around being fresh and new, how have you managed to keep that? Because I still feel like this business feels like that, it's still fresh, you're coming up with new ideas.
I said recently in an interview that, you know, it's not my phrase, but I think in business terms, you either grow or you die. And so I think I've clearly not wanted to die or kind of fail at the business. And so how do you keep it fresh and new? I'm always kind of thinking of the next exciting, shiny thing. And that, by the way, can be, as you know, to my detriment. But at least it keeps the conversation flowing always about what could we do? You know, how could we be the best in the world at this particular thing? What would have to happen to be number 1 in London? You know, these are the kind of questions we ask regularly in our monthly CLTs, Clownfish Leadership Team meetings. Yeah, my favorite being, what would have to happen to, and then fill in the blank. That conversation and it being threaded deep in our culture, I think is how we keep fresh and exciting.
So you talked earlier about the amazing growth that you've had from the days where you were being driven around in your dad's car, in your shed in the garden. And it's clearly grown a lot, and you've had great success over the years. Has there been a significant moment or decision that you've made that you think has really allowed that growth and success to happen?
Yeah, it's funny. The question I probably get asked the most is, you know, what one thing made you successful, or what one thing can I do to be rich? Like, it's the kind of, it perhaps feels a bit like the day-to-day, or the culture, sorry, these days. Which is everyone wants one answer. And actually, if you go onto Instagram or these sorts of places, it does feel like everything is, you know, if you do this, you will become this. Yeah. It's a simplified, diluted version of what might get you X. And I think I would say it's never one thing. There is no one single thing that I've ever done that has caused anything great here. Everything that's ever happened great in this business is the culmination of hundreds and hundreds of decisions and thoughts and compounding growth over time.
So I've obviously had the pleasure of knowing you over the last few years, and I spent a fair bit of time with you, but I think you probably only need to spend about 20 seconds with you to know that you are clearly passionate about culture, workplace culture, staff engagement. Can you just talk a little bit about why you think that is so important?
It probably stems back from, I think, why I set up a business in the first place. I think I mentioned earlier that I was kind of nerdy at school, and I played with sound desks and lighting desks, and that wasn't cool in those days. It probably isn't now either, but it certainly wasn't in 2005 or something. I was not good academically at all, and I wasn't popular. I was a very shy, very anxious young person. And so weirdly, I thought the safest thing I could ever do was create my own business, because at least then I could control my own environment and I could guard safely the doors in which people entered the business with. I think psychologically that's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to protect myself. I said recently, most people say that they start a business to save the world. I think I started a business at 18 to save myself. And so because of that, the thing that I have always cared more about than anything else, including bottom line profit, is making this place a beautiful place to be, because that was always the kind of thesis right from the start. Like, make it a place for someone like myself to feel safe inside of and do great work. And I've only wanted to emulate that ever since. Mm-hmm. And so as you walk around the building, you will meet the most extraordinary kind of mixed section of people from a variety of different backgrounds. People that were adopted, who don't know their mum and dads, people that have had very broken families, people from a variety of kind of health backgrounds, religious backgrounds. Like, I really like it.
I remember you talking about it before, but you do a great thing when you kind of one-to-one meetings with people just to improve collaboration across the team and help people to get to know each other. You still doing that?
Yeah, so every year we do what's called Philosophers' Walks, and essentially every pair in the organisation at Clownfish, they go on a walk for roughly, 5 minutes each. And every single person in the company will speak to every other person. So this takes a long time, and it's done across kind of 3 or 4 hours across the 3 or 4 days. And each pair, if we were walking together, I'd say, Eddie, what's one thing that you really love about working with me? And you would say, Matt, I like your infectious enthusiasm. And then I'd say, thanks, Eddie. And then I'd say, Eddie, just what's one thing that you think if I did that could be would make my job just slightly better? Or what's one thing that can be difficult about working with me? You can frame it however you like. I'm basically asking you, as the person that works with me the most, for some kind of constructive feedback. And you would say, there is nothing that I can mention that is negative. No, you certainly wouldn't, of all people, actually. But that's kind of what we're trying to do. And it's amazing. And you do that, if there are 20 people on it next week, you do that 19 times with 19 colleagues individually. What happens is you start to form both a kind of positive, wow, I didn't know that I was liked for this thing. Like, I didn't know that this was a great thing in our company. I'm going to do more of that thing. And sometimes the positives are like, Matt, I really like that you kind of, every now and again you ask me about my husband, who has been a bit unwell recently, and it means a lot to me that you ask. And I wouldn't ordinarily realise that meant a lot to that person. And in that walk situation, once a year, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm going to do more of that. And I hadn't realised that meant something. In fact, the best one I ever got, which is really painful, and I always say, if it's painful, it's probably true. A young guy said to me, Matt, sometimes when I'm in a conversation with you, I feel you're not fully present. Oh my goodness me. That was the youngest in the organisation, speaking to the highest in the organisation, and actually the oldest at the time. And that opportunity would not naturally present itself very well unless I kind of forced it. It's great for him to be able to give me that kind of feedback. Amazing for me. He was entirely correct, by the way. And I didn't even realise he even noticed. And so from that day on, I have worked so hard at being present in one-to-one conversations. And I think to grow at the rate we're trying to grow, and to navigate what is clearly a difficult economical time, actually a fast track that makes us different to most other companies is this ability to say to your colleague, just so you know, that van when you loaded, it wasn't loaded very well because that thing fell over. So we actually find it genuinely helps the business and helps the individuals grow faster and quicker.
You talked about tricky economical climates earlier, and without wanting to dwell on it too much, clearly national lockdowns and events companies don't go hand in hand. So how did you pivot over that time of COVID, and And how did you get through it effectively?
You know, I just lost my dad kind of unexpectedly through cancer, and 1 or 2 months later, this kind of national or global pandemic thing occurred. We weren't in any way insured for it. We kind of missed that. In fact, even if I had done a kind of SWOT analysis, never in a million years under threats would I ever have put.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah.
And actually, it's funny, I said a lot of the time, the thing that we do fundamentally as a business is bring people together, and that literally had been made illegal kind of overnight. And so it was really tough, and lots of our kind of friends in the industry and maybe competitors kind of fell apart, closed down, took us an opportunity to finally start a new industry, or job, sorry. And I think because I had just lost my dad, I absolutely was not also willing to lose the business too. Yep. You know, I did not realize that at the time, but as I reflect now, and I wonder where the hell did that drive come from to literally do whatever it took. So we borrowed about £400,000, I think, the Coronavirus Business Loan Interruption Scheme, CBILS, some bounce back stuff, some additional private loans because the CBILS wasn't enough. The furlough thing was amazingly helpful for the business too. But slowly, with that borrowed money, I didn't want to just pay off debt or pay off wages because that would feel like a kind of irresponsible use of loaned money. Instead, we invested it. The building we're sitting in right now, we actually own, and it gave us the most amazing opportunity to put in these kind of 2 mezzanines that you can kind of see over there. But everything above now and the floor above that too was all put in during the pandemic. And then we built on the very top floor this kind of very state-of-the-art live stream studio. The mezzanine stuff I'd always wanted to do, but there was no obvious time to do it because the business was always so busy. So this finally gave us a time to just stop. There was no vans coming in and out. The live streaming studio was an absolute pivot. Effectively, we turned all of our in-person events, where possible, into kind of live streamed. Sometimes in the building, so people came in and shot upstairs, and sometimes externally. So we actually live streamed funerals, we live streamed weddings, we live streamed kind of corporate conference training. But we also had lots of people come here and do kind of big kind of TV shows to their companies. Yeah, it was a pretty extraordinary time.
Yeah, amazing.
But actually we came through, and I think you kind of asked earlier, you know, what was the pivotal moment of growth? For me, the pandemic is what turned us from perhaps a amateur business to a professionally run business. Yeah, we changed, our thinking changed a lot around the pandemic time of, gosh, if we apply ourselves and we think like professional business people, this is what we actually could achieve.
And what's next for the Clownfish journey? Have you got big plans, ambitions?
There's always new stuff. We have a couple of Nathans here, but one of them is a creative director, Nathan Fox. He got a first in product design at university. We're actually building him. We've just bought another building across the road, literally opposite, and we're planning to build a big workshop. Something that we notice our clients wanting more and more is these really kind of bespoke items for whether it's their exhibition stands or their parties or their events, or their product launches. They want bespoke built letters, tables, customization. We've actually been doing quite a bit of it in the last few months, but I think that bespoke nature of service line will be the big kind of thing for 2026 and onwards.
Thanks, Matt. So what's a typical client for you? What do people normally buy from Clownfish these days?
We have really changed across all this time. We really started doing weddings and 40th and 50th birthday parties and bar and bat mitzvahs. Really nowadays we're kind of exclusively B2B. That suits us. The kind of repetitive nature of that type of work is great for our model. Yep. Clearly a great wedding or a great 40th, you know, you're less likely to come and repeat book. I mean, you'd like to think with the wedding, but the 40th, you might get the 50th, but that's a 10-year wait.
Yeah.
It's kind of a long time. So the B2B stuff has worked really well for us, and we're really well poised to do that geographically, but also with our reputation and with all the accreditation that we have. So most of our work now is companies in London and Surrey. They generally are kind of 250 employees plus, right the way through to the biggest. And for them, this time of year, we'll do all of their summer parties. November, December, obviously it's Christmas party season. And then through the year, we often end up doing team building, conferences for them, product launches and exhibitions sometimes. And then my favorite is the kind of big corporate offsite retreat. So we aim to be an event partner for businesses trying to engage their employees and make their workplace great.
Am I right in saying that you recently won an award?
We have won a few this year. We are the 8th best company to work for in the UK as for the Best Place to Work Awards.
Amazing.
So top 10 was a big deal for us. And then more recently, we've just won the Sunday Times Best Place to Work Award. And they also gave us a Spotlight Award for the Best Place to Work Award in hospitality, which means that in the whole hospitality sector of this multi-billion-pound sector in the UK, we are the best place to work, which is really cool, actually. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
We were featured in the Sunday Times. In fact, I WhatsApped you a photograph on the day.
Yeah, you did.
And there's a few of us standing there.
What one bit of advice would you give a young entrepreneur, maybe a 18-year-old Matt driving around in their dad's car, about business in general? What advice would you give them?
I do a lot of mentoring for young people on entrepreneurship because I kind of wish I had that. I kind of warn them of how difficult the journey is. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, statistically, as you know, it's actually really, really complicated. And to make a business work, particularly in these times, I think is in some sense is harder than ever before. For an 18-year-old, might even say, look, life is long in some senses. Your career will probably be 40 years, give or take. You have time to get a boss. Yep. You have time to get a bit of life experience, to understand the consumer journey. You have time, use it. You don't rush. I kind of sometimes wish that, I've never had another boss, ever, in my life. So I don't know what it's like to be managed. I don't know what it's like. And I think I probably could have been, that could have helped me.
Yeah.
So I would say slow down, stop chasing money, which is probably what it is for most people that meet me anyway. And I think I would say probably more importantly than anything, get some kind of partner, whether that's a 50-50 shareholder, whether that's some sort of chairman or some kind of mentoring base. Do it with people, don't do it alone. I think I did too much of it alone. So
Matt, what advice would you give for a business owner in terms of looking for a trusted business advisor?
I think, look, it's like any great relationship. I think a lot of it probably is based on gut feel. My entire career, I've made business decisions probably more on gut than I have on factual information. And sometimes that has not served me, but more often than not, it's been the right thing. And ultimately, if the relationship is with me, then it has to work for me, and therefore it probably is the right thing by definition, because that's who I am. I'm more of a emotion-based business leader than I'm a logical-based business leader. I was really lucky. Eddi came into my life, as you know, through Azets 5 or 6 years ago. Is that right?
Just pre-pandemic, I think.
It was just pre-pandemic. Clearly, Eddi and team are highly competent and good at what they do. But what I really wanted was someone who actually really cared. I was more than just kind of a number on a piece of paper. I would ordinarily contract small businesses than I would large businesses. And I remember saying that to you at the time, because I think as a small business, it's just more likely you're going to be more of a bigger deal to them than clearly being lost in a bigger organization. And that was my only real concern with using Eddi and Azets. It's like, gosh, am I just going to get passed over? And it's just going to feel too corporate for me. Clearly, I'm not a very corporate person. And so that wasn't the case. You said, no, you will deal with me only. You will not even know there's a big business behind me. In fact, the big business is the powerful vehicle that you need. So that one day, Matt, when you start dealing with more complicated things like R&D, we've got a big beast of teams behind me. Azets now take care of every part of our accounts. It really is like hiring an outsourced FD in, which has been a really big turning moment for us. It really has outsourced the entire finance needs of our business to one trusted outfit. I then meet Eddi every month, and we go through the management report of the month prior. We also meet every quarter, generally have a dinner, which I love, and that's talking about where we are on track in terms of forecasting versus budget and actual.
And looking a bit more to the future. Maybe.
And looking more to the future, he tells me what to do there. But actually all the other things that come up, and there are so many, when we bought properties here, the stamp duties, the R&D work, personal tax returns, for instance, it's forced me to take seriously and understand better and make more informed decisions based on the data and the finances of the company. And as a result, we just so happen now to be in the kind of strongest, safest place we've ever been in. I actually think that most MDs, entrepreneurs, they should get on and crack on with the things they're really good at, the things that light them up and excite them. They should not be worrying about the background detail. What a waste of energy. I'm trying to buy in my strengths, eliminate my weaknesses, and just do the things I'm really, really good at. And so that's where enter Azets, enter Eddi, has been a great thing for our business.
Oh, thank you, that's very kind. And on the flip side, I feel like I've learned a lot from you in terms of that entrepreneurial brain and strategic thinking, stepping back. So thank you as well.
Well, that's surely the definition of a great partnership, where I guess both sides kind of grow and flourish and perhaps learn from the other. I think, as you say, that's kind of what we've achieved.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thanks so much, Matt, for your time.
Pleasure.
It's been great to chat to you. I can't help but notice there's a shuffleboard out, which is one of your newer products, I believe.
Yeah, just got built.
And I believe you want to get beaten. So should we have a game?
Well, let's do loser buys dinner for the other one tonight.
That's a deal.
All right, great.